Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
In a world where action movies are constantly exploding at the box office, our heroes take on the monumental task of dissecting and analyzing all aspects of action movies to truly understand what it takes to make a great action film. Ben Bateman, Andrew Ghai, in a Popcorn Talk Network exclusive. This is Action Movie Anatomy.
What's up, everybody? Ben Bateman here with Action Movie Anatomy. Welcome to the show. We talk movies on the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network devoted to talking movies and all things movie-related. I am joined today by my co-host, Andrew Ghai.
What's up, everybody? Happy to be back.
And two quality guests. We have JTE.
Thank you very much. I'm ready to talk to Rambo.
And my new friend, Tom.
Yes. How you guys doing?
How are you, Tom?
I'm a big Rambo guy, Rocky guy, obviously, and the mug is back.
Yeah.
The mug is excellent.
Yeah, it's been gone for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a special one, guys. This movie is pretty iconic in the canon that we do. We talk action movies here on the show, and they all have to fit in to 4 basic rules to qualify for the show. So these are action movies that start from 1981 on, and the 4 rules are: the hero always plays by their own rules. Rule number 2, the hero and the villain are always the smartest guys in the room. 3, the movie is driven by a police, military, or political figure. And rule number 4, the movie contains a minimum of 1 explosion.
Is there an explosion in this movie?
It actually starts on an explosion. Before there's any dialogue or screen time, it just explodes, and now we're watching Rambo.
Well, once Stallone pops on the screen, that's an automatic explosion anyway.
Explodes
Explodes onto the screen.
His hair has exploded out to another degree in this one.
Yeah.
You know, like in MacGruber, when they like spoof, like it's like you hear the panther, the like,
Yeah.
and it's like that. That's like you watch this movie, you're like, wow, that's where they get ideas for stuff like this, because it literally just starts on an explosion.
Yeah,
I
it's
wish
like
they
a
had
rock.
that sound in there.
There's a rock explosion, right? Basically,
Yeah.
just a rock exploding because
Yeah.
he's in
Yeah.
jail.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to think.
Well, he's like doing like he's chiseling or something, right?
I
He's a
mean,
sculptor, I believe, is what it
He was
is.
sculpting rocks, and then he goes and sculpts himself.
exactly.
It's the only place where he can find peace.
That's right.
So anyway, this movie is pretty important to all of us, and we are going to start today by watching the original trailer from 1985. Now, trailers back then were not quite as evolved as the wonderful trailers that we have today, but it still is relevant, I think, to the film, and we can see some sweet clips of John Rambo.
I
Rambo.
love
John
old
J.
trailers.
John
man.
J.
I love old trailers.
Yeah, they're just...
I mean, Jesus Christ.
Starts
Look at
off
that.
Is this a porno?
Yeah, you're like, I don't even know what that is, but it's awesome.
I already know I don't want to mess with this guy because he has muscles and scars.
He's really tan also.
Yeah.
He's super tan.
And he's always baby oiled up.
You would think he's like putting a gun together. He's tying his shoelaces, people.
Yeah.
He can make tying shoes look badass.
So this was a specific trailer voice that I feel like
Oh yeah.
this was a mid-'80s one?
Yeah, this is before the 90s where it blew up with
Yes.
those two guys.
This
Yeah.
guy did adult movies too in the 70s.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow, that's a good piece of
Really?
trivia.
I'll send you guys a bunch of old school
Rambo.
70 trailers.
John Rambo is back. Yeah.
Rambo was the best combat vet I've ever seen.
Ooh, that's a good line.
I love how everyone's just always sweating in Vietnam, too.
Of course.
They do
Yeah,
that in all those movies.
it's very
It's really
humid.
humid.
It is. It's
Yeah.
very warm there.
You'll find someone? POWs? Doubtful.
He doesn't know Rambo.
He doesn't know Rambo.
He'll find anything.
You've made a mistake. Oh, what's that? Rambo.
Oh my God.
You know what? This trailer is pretty sweet.
It's sweet, yeah.
That's amazing.
It's definitely sweeter than some, no
Oh,
doubt.
in 85, forget about it.
Yeah, for 85, it's a really
Traditional yell.
Yeah.
We're going down. You're not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a moment, by the way, when we get to recast, where that moment in the movie is like super important to pay attention to, because like a lot of the actors that you would think of, you would have a hard time believing them. They would just like sit down. They
Right.
wouldn't like put up a fight. It's a very specific kind of actor who's loyal and military and smart,
And-
but willing to like be submissive.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
A little weak.
Exactly. That's super important. That moment.
That's why my recast is perfect.
Can't wait to hear it. Oh, you do have a good recast for him.
Oh, I know.
He calls home.
What you call hell, he calls home. That's not the greatest tagline.
That's a great tagline.
Come on.
So sweet.
Slow motion run.
Nobody runs better than Stallone.
No.
I disagree.
Oh,
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is the only one.
I'll take Stallone over Tom
Yeah,
Cruise.
but Stallone has Anthony Kiedis is a good runner too. But Stallone, when Stallone runs, he knows how to like accentuate every single muscle in his body.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true.
It's a different type of run. Tom Cruise just looks like he's like running like 60 miles an hour wherever he goes.
Correct.
Amazing.
Listen, I would love to do this show, but I gotta go watch a movie now.
All right, see you guys later. And that does it for us this week.
All right, guys.
Totally runs.
So we've all seen the movie at least a couple times, and we're going to do this week. This is something we started doing last week, and I think this is it's a great new addition to the show. We are all going to sort of express our thesis statement. This is an important idea that each one of us is going to have about this movie that we're going to spend the rest of the show kind of leading back to, and it's just sort of a strong statement that we think represents our feeling on the movie. So I'm going to start over here with you, JTE. What is your strong, bold statement?
Yeah, I'm going to say this movie is the birth of the one-man army trope. I don't think any movie before this really captured the one-man army, which became every other B action movie. Commando came out later that year, tried to be a one-man army, but this is the one that started. In my book, if you could give me a movie that was a one-man army before this, I'd be very surprised.
That's true.
Yeah, I got no debate.
I mean, it's
That's
vigilante movies and other things like that, but nothing like this like whole one man against the world type stuff.
You bring up like Death Wish. Yeah, he's going out against some gangsters. This guy is literally taking on the Vietnam War.
Vietnam Army.
He's winning Vietnam for us.
Vietnam.
I think it's also like really important when you make a statement like that too, because I agree with you.
Yeah.
Is that like I'm sure that there was a movie made before this that we're unaware of that does it, but it wasn't big like this.
We're unaware, and the key word unaware.
Exactly. Well, I think
Because
what's
Stallone
important
makes everybody aware.
Exactly.
it's the whole theory of like you don't get famous for the idea, you get famous for succeeding with the idea. So it's like if this is the one that succeeded, then it is in fact the first one.
If I was saying, listen, I'm going to go Rambo style on this.
Right.
You know what I'm
You know
talking
exactly.
about. Going one man, I'm going to take over everything.
Right. Yeah. What do you got, Drew?
So mine is that this movie has 3 of the worst villains of all time in it.
3 of or the 3?
3 of. I don't know about the absolute worst 3, but I like hated all 3 of them.
So Murdoch,
I just wanted to see him die, and he didn't. Which is another thing about Charles Napier is you just see him come on screen, and like I hadn't seen the movie in years. I didn't really remember it that well. And I'm like, I know he's gonna be a bad guy. He just looks like a bad guy.
Right.
And he's hanging out with the guy from the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
So he's gotta be a bad guy.
the dojo master.
Yeah, and then the Vietnamese guy doesn't even say one line in English, although he does kill the lady, which is like that one moment. And he has the most epic death, I think,
He's the best.
of all of them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Russian guy, which is
Right.
Steven Berkoff of Beverly Hills Cop fame.
Yeah.
The Russian guy, I definitely was imagining as I was watching. I was like, you should be played by the questionably gay guy from Commando that wears the chainmail and has the knife.
Oh yeah,
I was like, yeah,
Bennett.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that guy. I don't think he's questionably. I think he's full blown.
The thing I loved about this was America's 2 biggest villains. You got the Vietnamese, basically, at the time, Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And he doubles it up, brings the Russians in.
I know. When they
it's
came
like,
in.
let's bring on both the things that America hates and just take them on.
Well, he went with the Russians because the Rocky IV was coming. Rocky IV was coming out that year too. So he's like, let's double up here.
Yeah, whole hog.
Yeah, let's get it
It
going.
was originally supposed to be Dolph Lundgren, too.
I know. That's
which
crazy
was-
part.
I think it would have been better.
And they bought out his contract. I like Steven Berkoff though. Maybe Dolph Lundgren as the Russian muscle guy.
Yeah.
More or less the guy who was tying Rocky or Rambo up to the electrical socket.
Sure.
Thingamajig or whatever that was.
I think when you say like
Flipped over
Napier
bed.
is evil, you see
Flipped
him.
over bed, yeah.
You see Napier and you're evil.
Yeah.
Karate Kid guy is evil.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're hanging out
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So you see them together, you're like, okay, I got it. Figured it out.
You see him and he's like ultimately represents like just like you're a douchebag, man.
Right, yeah.
You
Yeah.
should be like stealing my girlfriend on the beach right
Yeah,
now.
his
It's
face,
like-
his face rests on like douchebag look.
Yeah.
Like he's the guy I'm like, honey, I'm gonna go get a snow cone,
Yeah.
and he's that guy like, look, just he comes in, and it's like those little the cartoons in the back of comic books where there's the scrawny guy and the muscle guy.
Yeah.
He's the muscle guy.
Quick side note, the guy from Karate Kid in Karate Kid 3 says he's in Vietnam, and that's why him and the villain in Karate Kid 3 are like, oh, remember in Nam together, you saved my ass a few times, I'm gonna help you get back at this LaRusso kid. I think it might be the same character.
Oh wow.
Interesting. That's good. That's a good callback.
Alter
well,
Universe article that needs to be written.
Well, Stallone probably had a hand in that.
So I'm gonna ask, what is your bold statement?
It's the first action movie where the hero wore no shirt for like 75% of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I think. I
thought you were serious, right?
I am pretty serious about it. But yeah, I mean, and then Commando followed suit, and then everybody else followed suit. I really think there's like a magical realism to this movie. Yeah, it was a magical. I really believe that this may have happened out there.
Oh God, I can't wait till we get to the categories.
I mean, something like this has to. I mean, I do believe there's probably still POWs over there. I mean, at this point in '85, what are we? 13 years removed from the war or something like that.
Is it set though? Is it set in '85 or is it set earlier?
No, I think it's.
I think it's set in '85.
Yeah, I think it is.
It's definitely after the war.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. I don't know. I like movie Hook, Line, and Sinker. The action was unparalleled. That's where Stallone finds his people.
All right. So those are our thesis statements. I do want to get into one other opinion-based segment before we just sort of get into the full breakdown of the movie. This is star profiles. So this is kind of an interesting one because Stallone, as we were talking about earlier off camera, he's really famous for 2 franchises. That's the movies that matter. Like, there's a couple other movies here and there in his career that you pay attention to for sure, but really when it comes down to it, it's Rocky and Rambo. Yep. So when you talk about his most recent hits before this movie, well, it's Rocky 4 came out the same year, and you have Rocky 3 in '82, and you have First Blood, which is the first installment of the Rambo franchise, in also '82. So it's just Rambo and Rocky movies. That's all he was doing.
Yeah.
That's
Just writing and starring in his own movies, just back to back to back.
It's a dream.
He just gets to keep the same hair. Well, no, that's not true.
It's a little different.
It's a little different.
A little bit.
He just gets to stay jacked. That's pretty much all it is.
Yeah.
You made an iconic character when your first movie is called First Blood.
Yeah.
And the second movie is called Rambo First Blood.
Right.
Just like Raiders of the Lost Ark became Indiana Jones.
Yes, exactly.
That's how you know you created an iconic character.
Absolutely.
One thing that I do think is interesting. So First Blood's a very good movie. Like it's not First Blood is I would call like less of an action movie, more of a drama.
That's just
more of a real movie.
That's just a character piece.
Yeah.
A big character study.
Yeah.
Almost like a 4-man play between Brian Dennehy, Crenna, Stallone, and the other cat. Yeah,
I mean,
it's unbelievable stuff.
I really enjoy First Blood, and I think Dennehy does a great job. And
I love Dennehy.
Great.
Crenna has like this really great way of playing the general, where he's sort of cardboard, but it's this really lovable cardboard. I almost think it's more of a character choice than an actual the actor's chops. He's this very old school. Because what's interesting about this stuff and like a war movie from this time is, you're making this in the mid '80s, so the number of like vets and people that are in their 50s that had actual experience either in the war or their dad, it's like way closer to that sort of like John Wayne, really strong male character generation. It wasn't this generation we're in now where war is this very abstract concept for young people. So I think it's really interesting when you see like a character like the General or a character like Rambo. They're kind of they're relatable in the way that John Wayne was the square-jawed, didn't talk much kind of a character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a machismo there that you don't see in characters nowadays, right?
And Rambo 1, I mean, he had a couple of lines in the beginning, and then it was just killing everybody after that. We're not really killing, just hurting people really bad.
Right. So this movie picks up right after the end of a very quality drama, and the tone is totally flipped.
Oh yeah.
Completely flipped.
Like you said, it starts with an explosion.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he visits him in jail. He's got super long hair now.
Great.
I think his sleeves were torn off. He's pounding rock all day.
Yeah.
And basically, like, I got a mission for you to get you out of here.
Yeah.
I did everything I could to get you out. I want you to know that.
Yeah.
And Stallone doesn't even say anything. He just gives nods.
No, he does say something. He says the exact line that Predator says, where he says, "Why now? Why me?" Which is the same line that Schwarzenegger says. He's like, "Why now? Why me?" And then Carl Weathers goes, "Because some damn fool will accuse you of being the best." So he'll tell you what.
Yeah, this one, it's a computer that picks him out, right? Like he's like one of 3 people that they found in their database.
Yeah.
Do it.
It is, yeah.
And then
like a
goes
sweet green computer. It's like,
and there's like a
So good.
smash cut to boom, Rambo First Blood 2. Like with fire.
It's funny, like him and Troutman have like almost like a Jedi thing.
Yeah.
Because in 1, going back to 1, when like Rambo, when they blow the little cave up, the mine, Troutman just like smells the air and he's like, he's still alive. They're like, yeah, he's alive.
They're a great duo, and they capitalize this in the 3rd one when they have to fight together.
Yeah.
There's like the sweet shots of them with their shirts off, firing guns.
Yeah. That's what you needed. After the first
amazing.
2 movies, you're like, I need to see these 2 fighting together.
Of course.
Yes.
Troutman's like the ultimate hype man. That's all he does. He hypes him up.
Yeah.
He's like, you going after him? Remember one thing.
Yeah.
What's that? A lot of body bags. I'm like, this guy.
You're the only one I trust.
He thinks I make a billy goat puke.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff.
Oh, man.
So then Richard Crenna was really, he died in 03, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a 76, but I mean, it says, his 3 previous movies were The Flamingo Kid, Table for Five, and First Blood. So obviously we've all seen First Blood. I want to say that I have seen The Flamingo Kid.
Yeah, it's from Matt Dillon.
Yeah.
He's like He's like a little gigolo, and he it's almost like Saturday Night Fever-ish, you know?
Yeah.
He like has a job in like Brooklyn and goes into like the Hamptons and starts working at these beach clubs and stuff like that. It's actually really good movie.
It sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure it's been on cable before.
I was gonna say it's a cable movie for me for sure.
one of
Like
those.
10 years ago.
It basically made Matt Dillon for the most part. I mean, I thought it was My Bodyguard with Chris Makepeace, but they think it was this one.
Do you guys table for 5? Does that ring a bell for anybody?
No, you know, when I think about him in other movies, the only one that comes to mind was Summer Rental with John Candy. He played the landlord guy that John Candy's going against. He did a great job playing like this real scumbag landlord villain, and that's really the only thing that comes to my mind besides the Rambo movies.
The crazy part, Krenna, was he filled in like 3 days before shooting started on the original Rambo because
Oh, that's right. Kirk Douglas
dropped out. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's great. I'm so happy with it.
Yeah.
Kirk Douglas is great, but come on.
Yeah, well, he wanted Rambo dead, and they're like, no, we need a franchise here.
Yeah, Krenna's like, he's perfect for the role. He's like almost as memorable in a lot of ways. Like he's a super memorable character.
Yeah, the two of those guys stand out, like always, like Rambo and the Colonel.
Yeah, it's their thing.
Well, yeah, and it's like the way that like in MacGruber, it's like a spoofed as the general, and it's like a great spoof because he's such a great character. You know what I mean? And it's like we said, this franchise is responsible for a lot of that stuff because that general, that loyal general character, it's another trope that we see, right?
Well, Troutman played himself basically in Hot Shots Part 2.
Yes.
He played his same character from Rambo, but to Charlie Sheen, and
I loved it.
I love seeing him just taking that character. It showed he knew how ridiculous it was.
Yeah.
Right.
Loved that.
It was amazing.
So then we have Charles Napier. We don't have a lot listed here, but looks like he honorable mention or
Yeah, I mean, it's just to talk because we usually only do 2 stars.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's important to mention that, you know, because this guy was a big part of the movie.
He was.
Yeah.
He had a big impact on it, but his career hadn't really started yet. It was in the very, very beginning of his career.
Yeah.
And then he worked like crazy.
Right. Yeah, he had a stretch there for sure. All right, so I want to kind of get into production development with this. So, as we said, you know, Stallone, everybody kind of knows the Stallone story, right? He was a writer before he was successful. He had written the first 4 Rocky movies before he even got the first one made. I believe Rambo, he was already working on phases of it. He had ideas. So this is a guy who really, by the time this had happened, he had like sort of seen the actualization of like most of his dreams, I think. When you're looking at the second Rambo movie and Rocky IV is coming out, you know what I mean? The first one won the Oscar. This is 10 years after Rocky 1. Right, 76 is Rocky 1?
Yep.
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so 10 years later, he's definitely riding high. And I think it's...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is like the peak of his career.
Yeah, he could do it.
He's an incredibly successful guy. Like this stretch.
This was
10 year
he
stretch
had
is
first
insane.
crack at any movie he wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we're talking like Officer and a Gentleman. We're talking like...
Oh, right. He turned down so many huge roles.
Yes. Oh, huge roles. He made a lot of people's careers. A lot of people out here have a lot to... they owe him a lot, including myself.
His 2 most successful movies ever were both this year.
Yeah.
Rocky IV and Rambo II were both 1985.
Yeah, this was the pinnacle of his success at this point.
Oh, yeah. And those movies were massive. We'll talk about it when we get into the box office, but huge.
So you know, James Cameron had a role in this as well.
Yeah.
He actually, I wrote the original script, right? And the two of them then collaborated, and I think as he says it, what Cameron says something about the politics.
Yeah,
right?
he says, James Cameron says, I wrote the action, Stallone wrote the politics.
I mean, we're paraphrasing, obviously, but essentially that's, you know, and that's pretty evident, I think, when you look at, like, if you look at the cover of Rocky IV, right? He's draped in an American flag.
Yeah.
Just like the amount of like patriotism and just like hardcore America that goes into these 2 movies.
Oh, yeah, it's just riddled with it. Just everywhere.
It's the era too.
Yeah, it's like the end of the Cold War type stuff. I mean, he capitalizes on stuff.
And one of the more interesting things about James Cameron's part was he actually originally wrote the script he's with a team. He's with like a group of mercenaries that goes in with the POWs to find them. And Stallone nixed it. He's like, no.
He just didn't even say anything. He just went in like this.
He said one.
No.
And then Cameron took some of the side characters that he wrote for that movie and used it in Aliens.
Okay.
The sequel to Aliens. So some of the Marines in Aliens were some of the characters that were supposed to originally kind of be in Rambo.
Yeah,
He took a few things that Stallone didn't want in the movie, like the beginning, instead of being like chiseling rock, which is way more badass. They wanted him to be in a psychiatric hospital, which they ended up using in Terminator.
Right.
Exactly, and it's the same thing with Beverly Hills Cop. They gave it to Stallone. He was going to star in it. He wrote like this crazy, like kind of killing thing going on, and they're like, "We don't want that." And Stallone used the rest for Cobra.
Turned into Cobra. Right.
Who, what is his name? George Cosmatos.
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 Yep.
Yeah.
Who directed Cobra?
Cobra and
this
Platoon.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is you talk about the stuff that you're like borrowing from movies. I mean, in a lot of ways, these two movies start the same way, and it's basically Predator and this movie. And obviously they differ because Predator ends up being like an alien thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, if it's a group of people going in, it gets even more similar to Predator.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they're just super, super formulaic, these movies.
Absolutely.
It's so much better that it wasn't a group. Like when you're going through watching the movie, it's like, really? Is this really happening?
Yeah, it's got a tour guide, a girl tour guide, which was thrown through everybody for a loop. They rescued like 40,000 POWs.
Yeah.
Thank God he's a language specialist, so he can speak Vietnamese.
Yeah, she has some good lines.
Yeah.
This was her first movie ever.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She had a couple other ones too. After that was about it though. She's cute.
Julia
cute.
Nixon.
That's exactly what it is. She's cute. She probably married like a producer and like had a bunch of babies.
Right.
So Stallone and I believe Stallone was a producer on this. I'm sure he was.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he was.
But it was mainly the team.
You want to talk about
two
it?
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We could talk about that. So Mario Kasser and Andrew G. Vajna.
Yeah.
These guys met. I know his name is dangerous,
Vajna.
right?
Vajna.
So Mario produced his very first movie when he was 18, and that's how he met Andrew. And these guys kind of teamed up and started to just delve right into the action genre. And they worked on tons of movies together. You know, you got Die Hard with a Vengeance, Tombstone, Total Recall, Judge Dredd, The 13th Warrior, Terminator Rise of the Machines, Terminator Salvation. And that was the last thing they did. I think after they saw Terminator 3 and 4, they're like, all right, these guys, let's nix their career.
And Tomb Raider also directed, I'm sorry, not Tomb Raider, totally different movie. Tombstone was also directed by George Cosmatos.
Yeah.
And now Tombstone's a classic.
Love Tombstone.
Oh, yeah,
man.
movie's great.
Fantastic.
Tombstone is it'd be hard to justify it on this show, but I'd like to do it anyway.
It's one of the best westerns.
Well, Dana Delaney is one of my favorite women of all time.
That movie is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of just like one-liners, it's just great. But
so
anyway,
good.
we digress. Directed by George P. Cosmatos. Is that what you said?
Cosmatos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cosmatos.
Costanza.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. He was like George
Costanza.
I think in terms of production development, I mean, there's a documentary made about this movie that I haven't watched called I think We Get to Win This Time.
Yep. It's on the DVD.
Yeah. I haven't watched it, but it sounds pretty interesting. I mean, definitely it sounds like Stallone was. I watched like a behind the scenes video this morning for about 20 minutes, and it's funny when you watch this. You watch this movie and you watch the behind the scenes. You watch how seriously like he was taking the artistry on set of like just sort of the standing around, the direction, the paying attention.
Right.
It's almost hard to fathom taking what's going on very seriously when you watch this movie because it's so hectic. It's so violent. There's so much. There's so little like real acting. It seems. You know.
Was he talking about like the actual filmmaking? Because as a production level, I think the movie it was nominated for best sound and best editing that year.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
Oscar nominations.
When I watched this, I watched it growing up. And when I went to film school and I revisited it during film school with some friends, that's when it hit me. It's like, wow, this movie's really well made.
Yeah.
It really, honestly,
Yes,
really is.
Some of the things might be a little over the top and it might be a little cheesy now, but just on a technical level, it's really well made.
Especially for 1985. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago.
Yeah, you say it might be over the top. It might be. It's not quite there. And that's testament to how well it was made.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in total disagreement with you on that
I mean,
one,
it's not a
but we can-
spoof. It's definitely not a spoof movie. That's for sure.
Definitely not.
Yeah, it's definitely spoofable.
It's spoofable,
spoofable,
that's for sure. And Tropic Thunder, I
Like
think.
almost there.
I think Tropic Thunder took a lot from this movie.
And that's why I said it's the architecture, it's the head of the movie. I will say this, I'm going to go on record. I watched this movie 2 times between the time I was like 10 years old and the time I was 20. I remember seeing it twice. And then this was the 3rd time I'd seen it preparing for the show. And I have to say, watching it this time, I was like, this is not, like, it's not good on the level that other movies in the genre to me are good.
Wait, so you saw it 3 times, you're saying total?
Yes.
Okay, add 2 zeros of that. And that's about right.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, there are movies that I could get in the same conversation with you.
Yeah.
But, and I don't mean that it's bad. I just mean that it's not good on the level of some movies that I would sort of talk about it. I was expecting to talk about this in the same breath as maybe Speed or True Lies.
Right.
I mean, it's not Apocalypse Now. I mean, it's not The Deer Hunter or anything like that. But I mean, it's got the war, the action in this is fantastic.
Yeah, you think about the time, and even now, I mean, I definitely had a few drinks when I watched the movie, and I was like, yes,
It's the way to do it.
Yes, this is
It's
awesome.
the way to do it.
Hey, speaking of, we got to talk about our fist pump.
Oh, did we
moment,
skip
man.
fist pump moments?
Fist
Oh,
pump
man, that's
moment.
big.
Oh.
What is going on?
Okay.
I got mine, yeah.
Yeah.
We will.
Lock and
We'll
loaded.
get into box office critical in just a minute. Let's get into fist pump moments. I'm gonna reverse the order, and I'm gonna go with you, sir.
Okay, let's do it. I'm gonna go back to the general, who's just such a weasel.
He looks like.
So he pulls out, shooting. Stallone's like on the culmination of like the battle, right, with the Vietnamese guy. Stallone's just standing on this rock, like in the sunlight, all greased up.
Right.
Reaches back,
muscle butter.
This guy's like shooting this guy with like pea shooters and doing everything like that, and it's the shots off the rocks and everything. Stallone like takes the like nuclear
tip.
It's like this. Looking at the guy's still shooting, and the guy finally runs away, and, it's like, and then the guy just blows into smithereens.
Yeah.
What I love about that, it tells you how
it's the best.
It tells you how great a soldier is because he knows the weapon he's using cannot accurately hit him at the distance.
At that distance. And if it does, it's only going to hit him in the leg and bounce off his calf anyway.
Yeah, exactly. He's basically bulletproof from that distance.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he's like, nothing's going to go.
It's the most confident arrow.
Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if like they shot it and like Stallone like last dragging the bullet in his mouth, and then still shot this guy dead, and it was point blank range right in the middle of the spine. This guy's toast.
Put some live ammo.
Yeah, that was my fist pump moment.
I always thought, and you guys know Con Air when Nick Cage is walking through the plane, and he's like going up to the guy and he just shoots him in the arm. He doesn't even move, doesn't even flinch. I was like, that is so badass. And then I went back and watched this, and I was like, this is the original. Yeah, this is the best here.
This did it.
So interestingly enough, on that point, I just want to add is like when you say like how great of a soldier he is. I do think it's super, super interesting if you track the evolution of action movies and what we expect out of our action stars from then to now, right? Okay, so back at the beginning, it would have been like, we need to, like at the very, very beginning of action movies, it would have been like, this guy's just going to be like a super badass. He'll do everything. We don't have to explain why he's able to, right? Then with this one, it's like when he's chained up and he's like looking around to make his exit, he's like, or no, he's not chained up. I think he's on the boat. He's like, that guy's got a gun. That guy's got a gun. He's like surveying the landscape, makes his escape. Now you can flash forward, into the 90s or whatever. It's or say like Jason Bourne's that's a good example where Bourne doesn't have to show you that way, but he's like, there's a guy that weighs 220 over there. There's a guy that weighs 119 over there. The guy has a shotgun under the bar, and the guy behind me knows how to handle himself.
It's like, he's like, I know that right now I could leave this place and run flat for 7 miles or something like that before getting tired.
So that he gets to do that. I feel like nowadays we're almost back to a point where we don't need any exposition. Now the guys will just do it again.
All you need is 2 words. In the Rambo movies, they set it up: Green Beret. It's like saying,
Navy SEAL.
It's even bigger than a Navy SEAL team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we always talk about how in the 90s, the 80s and 90s were all about like 3 things: C4, silencers, and red dot lasers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like it's kind of the same thing. Navy SEAL and Green Beret back then in movies meant so much. They had so much weight.
Yeah, and you throw like a Purple Heart in it, forget about it.
Oh, Congressional Medal of Honor.
Yeah, you get that. You're in. Yeah.
Which probably leads into what do you have for you?
So my fist pump moment is my favorite line is right before it, and I'll get into that later. But my actual fist pump moment is when the first 15 minutes of this movie is just straight prerequisites to how this guy is just the biggest badass there is out there. And it's just talking about him, and it's like, all right, I'm going to do it. And then it just cuts to him like sharpening this massive Bowie knife, and then like he's just jacked. I mean, it was in the trailer. It's the first thing that's in there is this scene that I'm talking about. So it cuts to him doing that. He's like tying his shoes, putting a big knife and a little knife away, putting his camera in the bag. And you're just like, yes, this is so awesome.
Yep.
In my notes, I describe this as checklist montage: knife, boots, guns, explosives. Yes!
I'm ready.
Sorry, I got everything.
The vague explosives with quotations that happen in 90s movies. You can just write explosives on a box. That's all we need.
Then we got C4. C4 was the next one they used for like 20 years.
Yeah, it's out now. Now they're using
not cool anymore.
Yeah, now they're using like nuclear bombs.
Yep.
I'll let you go first. I'll go last.
Okay. My moment. I love when guys reach that moment of pure primal rage where they just gun down everything.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've seen it done with a helicopter. There's an amazing scene where the helicopter is just doing a 360 and he's hitting every button on that goddamn helicopter. He's shooting missiles, machine guns. And as the helicopter, there's one great shot. It's a wide shot too. I love the helicopter's doing a 360. Everything's exploding. That's in its path.
Yeah.
And Stallone is yelling.
Yeah.
He's yelling. No one can hear him.
Yeah,
no one can hear you in the helicopter. He's like, ah!
Yeah, he's releasing everything.
And he's unloading everything that this helicopter has on this little camp that the Vietnamese have. And to me, I'm just like, that
probably wasn't.
awesome.
It probably wasn't even scripted. It's probably like, hey, look, at about 2:00 he's gonna go on a roid rage. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Let's put a camera in the helicopter.
He might just fly their own helicopter and then like just go bananas.
I mean, and also just from like shooting that scene, they have to set up all the explosives.
Yeah.
They literally have to have this thing synced up perfectly as this thing is rotating. Everything has to explode just in the same pattern. I think it's a great action scene altogether.
And
Absolutely.
everything explodes.
Everything.
Literally literally everything
Yeah.
explodes.
I do think it's interesting what you said. I hadn't really ever thought about that. I always thought about this movie as like one of the silly spoofable movies. Like entertaining, definitely good. And we would never do a movie on the show if it wasn't good. The baseline to do a movie on the show is that it has to be a good movie.
Yeah.
But I always thought of it as in the really silly camp. But when you do talk about the technical action stuff, it does make a lot more sense that it was probably very well done for the time.
To
there's a lot of
execute,
things to
execute that,
overlook.
forget about
Yeah.
it. If you look at the credits, there's like 4,000 like prop people and like PAs and all these kind of cats, like stunt people. It's a long list of people. It's a big movie.
Yeah.
There's not many movies you can compare to this movie beforehand. Like, there's war movies like Apocalypse Now and like Platoon was afterwards, but there's war movies, but an action movie that, I mean, I love the fact that he introduced a knife and a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
He is, I mean, no other.
It's hand-to-hand combat.
It's just so genius. Like, you see a Rambo knife, I never see a knife like that used in a movie.
Yeah.
He used that thing for everything.
Absolutely.
And then the bow and arrow, like, who would have thought to make an action movie
With a bow and arrow.
in Vietnam?
and they're always so badass. Like bow and
Yeah.
arrows are awesome.
Yeah.
Whenever I see someone with a bow and arrow now, like I see Hawkeye and I'm just like, Rambo started all this.
Even crossbows. Like you see the guy from Walking Dead. Every time he whips the crossbow,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
someone's gonna
sweet.
die.
Yeah, even in Punisher, when he uses the bow and arrow at the end, I'm like, this is
That's
my favorite
Rambo.
part.
It's
Yeah, exactly.
I think of
Well,
Rambo every
it's
time.
character, it's character arc. It's character like building. I mean, if you could do that, this guy can knock you out with like his pinky.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love that the bow and arrow in this movie too. About the sound editing, it just sounds
Yeah.
like a gun going off every time. Like
Right.
I was like,
yeah.
am I hearing this wrong? And every single time, it's like, no, it's a gun. It's a gun sound
Yeah.
every time he shoots it.
And then he puts the little arrowheads with
yeah. It's the
explosives.
best.
You hear a
The
little,
big
you hear a little
face,
tick, 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 tick,
Yeah,
tick,
yeah.
tick.
So,
Amazing.
and it's like,
What kind of nitrogen is in these things that allows an explosion the size of like the
Yeah.
house?
you know what?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Stallone's
little
blood.
tip.
It's his blood.
It's his blood.
Cut
It's
himself
his voided
open.
out blood.
Cut himself open. Just one little drip.
Okay, so my fist bump moment is this is my favorite.
So much steroid today.
It jumps onto a line earlier when he's like Murdoch is being like, we have all the highest level equipment for you, and he's like, and Hotman's like, I want you to let the equipment do most of the work here, John. And he's like, and he says, I've always felt that the mind is the best weapon. He's like, times change, like for some people. So
It's the best.
I like that because you're like, oh, their outfit, and in a helicopter. Because you've seen the movie, you've seen the trailer, you know that he doesn't wear anything. Yeah. So the helicopter, he's fully outfitted in gear.
Yeah.
He's got a backpack. He's got like all kinds of stuff, and he gets hung up on the plane. And he's like, he's caught. And I was like, I'm watching this. He's caught. I was like, I don't remember this. And then he's like, we're gonna have to cut the gear loose. I was like, oh, he's gonna be stranded by himself. He's not gonna be wearing any clothes. He's not gonna have a gun. He's just gonna be by himself on the ground.
Yeah, it's excellent.
And I was like, this is great. I
Yeah,
was like,
that's
of
when I'm
course,
like, yep.
of course,
Yes.
right? That's what has to happen.
That's like the line in MacGruber. He's like, here's the gun, MacGruber. He's like, I don't use guns. Guns are for the stupid. Guns are for the weak. No offense.
it's a good movie. I like that flick.
Yeah, Forte's great in that. So that wraps up Fist Bump Moment. So we will jump back into production, which is going to be we're going to talk about box office now.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, as we already said, this movie was one of the two highest grossing films of Stallone's career. This and Rocky IV, which both came out in 1985. This was the second highest grossing movie of 1985, behind Back to the Future. We have a graphic at the top 10. We'll throw up on
Totally
the screen for you guys.
Totally different movie, but Back to the Future deserved it. That was just a phenomenal film.
Yeah, it's very, very good. So that there was those two.
Oh, wow.
This movie made. Yeah, there you go.
Well, The Color Purple and Out of Africa. And
Children of the Nile. I haven't seen
Cocoon
movie
made that
so
much
long.
The
money?
Goonies. Look at the Goonies up there.
Yes.
Yeah, Goonies is classic.
And Spies Like Us.
Fantastic.
Spies Like Us.
And
I love that.
Oft-Forgotten-
That was the first DVD I ever owned. Was Spies Like Us.
Spies Like Us, I feel like is an oft-forgotten comedy. It's like people don't really
great.
talk about it very
It's
often.
great.
Yeah, it's very
What
funny.
a fantastic
Year?
top 10, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's pretty amazing
Spies
stuff.
Like Us. It's a dick fur. It's like, don't you know?
Man, Rock and Rambo right there. 2 and
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, I mean this year
geez.
for Stallone was just
He
insane.
made so much money in 1985.
I tried to look exactly how much money he made in 85, and I couldn't find it. If you guys find it, please comment and let me know, because I just want to know. Each of those movies made $300 million in
Yes.
85.
In 85.
In 85.
I mean, that's like
lot
that's the equivalent.
of
He's the writer. He is the writer. He is the producer. He's the star of two franchises, and they both made $300 million.
Well, little known fact, that graphic right there is tattooed on Stallone's back.
You know,
But Rocky, whenever it says Rambo and Rocky, it's like really, it's in bold.
You know what? I just remember this. I have a vintage Rolling Stone magazine from 1985 where they did a piece on Stallone.
Yeah.
And they show like his mansion. At this time, he was with Bridget.
Oh yeah, Brigitte Nielsen. Yeah.
I mean, the photos of this guy's house were
Yeah.
unbelievable.
In 85.
In 85.
Yeah.
Like, this dude was living just another level of life that I'll never reach.
He was unparalleled.
Don't shortchange yourself, man.
I mean,
You can still do it.
I would take Frank's life. Frank got so much runoff. Forget about it.
good point.
So this movie made $300 million total. I believe the budget was
44 million. Yeah.
$44 million.
Now it would be 190.
Oh yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
more.
And it probably wouldn't be any better.
It probably wouldn't be.
Worse.
It
I mean, you saw
probably would
2008
be worse.
Rambo. It was pretty awesome.
It was good.
in sense, but
It was so violent.
It was the last movie
I love he
I've
just like
been-
cuts people in half with his machete
Yeah.
all the time.
It opens
Jesus
up to like
Christ.
killing kids and stuff. It's hardcore.
Yeah, it's intense.
It was the last movie I actually went to where people actually stood up like during the movie and were clapping when
Oh,
Rambo
really?
came out.
Oh, yeah.
And like saved the guys with like the 3 shots in the
Yep.
crossbow again. I mean the he's like dun, dun, and everybody.
Yep.
That was a fist bump moment in that movie.
Oh yeah.
I love that movie. I can't wait for the next
we'll have
one.
to get to that movie someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
It was
Alright.
brutal.
It is interesting
yeah,
and
it's
sad though. Like as we said, this was the highest grossing Rambo movie of all time. The second highest grossing was Rambo 3, but it's
That's the worst one.
Because the expectations were there. That's why.
Yeah, and 2008 Rambo did not make as much money as
No, it
those
didn't do
movies.
well.
It did.
Yeah.
It did pretty decently though, because everybody thought it was going to tank.
Yeah, I mean,
think
if you
it
look
did
at it in
almost
that sense.
100.
It did well. It had a low budget too.
But
Yeah.
and it did a lot of international.
Yes,
Which was good.
exactly. So this was the highest grossing R-rated movie of 1985,
Yeah.
and also the first movie to open in 2,000 plus theaters.
Right, and I think that shows because it also had the biggest opening weekend of the entire year, and I believe that the number 2 was Rocky 4 in November. This came out
Yes.
in May.
Yeah, the world was ready to explode at that point.
Yeah.
And they needed something like Rambo.
It's funny to me that they both have these very patriotic, they both have these very patriotic speeches at the end of the movie. I also like that Stallone was involved in the writing for both movies and started both movies,
Yes.
and the formula for how both movies ends is the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a huge speech at the end.
It's just
Great.
a big sappy. Apparently during filming the final speech in this movie, when he's like, "Oh, what we all want." I don't know the line exactly, but
Yeah.
apparently there's a take that's floating around where he
I was looking for it.
he breaks down crying in one of the takes.
Kinda like the first movie.
Yeah, he's like sobbing as he's saying it to the general.
But he
They
might have been
decided-
doing it for real.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
what
think
they
he
said.
was.
Yeah.
If you guys can find that, please link it to me because
Yes.
I would love to see. I looked for like maybe 20 minutes. I probably could have looked a little harder, but I wanted to see that, and I wonder if it would have been better.
I think
Like
it might
he's
have been.
stoic, but to see
Yeah.
that moment of him breaking would have been super emotional and great.
I agree with that.
I don't know because the last speech in this movie, it's very anger filled.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think that kind of worked for what was going on in the movie. But again, I would
Maybe
totally
they-
be interested in seeing that.
Maybe
Tears of
they-
rage.
Yeah, maybe they didn't want him to cry because, America was under turmoil at that time. They're like, if Rambo's crying, the Soviets see Rambo crying, they're going to come here and just destroy everybody.
Nuke us. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
done.
like Rambo's done.
Cold War
Can't
II.
show any weakness.
Rambo, yeah, no weakness.
Yeah, I do think it is funny that like, I don't really want to go down that road. We'll save that for the end. But yeah, let's get back into critical. So this movie was compared to First Blood, which was, I wouldn't want to call it a critical darling, but First Blood was kind of a surprise.
It's got incredible reviews.
Yeah.
Fantastic
It's a great
film.
movie.
Yeah.
This movie was kind of a departure critically. I think people reviewed it at the time, maybe more in the way that I'm reviewing it now, which is like watching it and feeling it's a little silly.
Right.
I don't know why it felt so much more dated when I watched it now. It felt just more laughable than it did back then.
I think it's easy to overlook those small details that we keep bringing up on the show. I mean, that's one thing that happens. That's why I love this show so much. Is you go back and you find a respect for these movies that people just kind of throw away. It's like,
Right.
it's just a crappy action movie. Like,
Yeah.
think about it. A helicopter. He fakes crashing a helicopter.
Right,
blah, blah,
right.
blah. But then you go back and you talk about, the everything being perfectly choreographed with filming and the helicopter spinning and like, let's say they did think about the gun and like he's such a great soldier. He knows he can't hit him. Like, these are things to really respect about a movie that
true.
you completely forget about.
And they were actual real explosions back then, too. Like,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
not CGI like they're doing now.
Yeah, the movie was actually dedicated to one of the stuntmen that died during an
Yeah.
explosion in the film.
Yeah, I mean, with Mad Max being hailed for as much like practical effects as it is, it is incredible to go back 30 years and watch a movie that, it's full of it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
There's no CG. But one of the things that I had thought of, and a more positive review of this movie is that, because of the nature of this movie, because they decided to go so over the top with the action, you don't really get a lot of moments where Stallone actually has a chance to act. But even though I do think the writing in the romance scene is poor, I think it's poorly written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does a fine job. He's
Yeah.
actually believable. And I actually do think that Stallone, I mean, everybody knows Stallone's a good actor when he tries to be, or at least he had a long stretch there in the 80s and 90s when he was pretty solid. You don't really see it ever anymore.
No.
But in some of the Rocky scenes, definitely
Yeah.
the first one.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
First
tour de
Blood,
force.
for sure. he's a very good actor.
And for this movie, the boat scene between him and her,
Yeah, it's
I
good.
think it's a very good moment.
Yeah.
Like,
He's just playing with a knife.
What is expendable? He's like, it's when someone invites you to party, but if you don't show up, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, I
That's
like
just
that.
such a great line. I was like, dude, that's the
fantastic.
best way to describe
I was
that
sold.
word.
I was sold.
Yeah.
So was she. She was sold on it.
Yeah,
She's like, if I live here, I'm going to tear you apart. To get back to the States, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Cliff Wenger Jr. I just want to give him a shout out. That's the guy that died during filming. I want to just mention and I want to give him a name. So
Sure. This is rated the worst Rambo movie by critics.
it is. Yeah.
Really worse than 3?
Yeah. Yeah. 3 barely beat it on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which is, that's
Yeah.
aggregate
I'm
rating.
gonna go Rambo on Rotten Tomato Studios.
Yeah, right?
They need to fix this. I'm going there.
Go
just
out
like
there.
that in this movie. I'm coming up shooting every computer with an A60.
Great.
I hope you yell.
It's like-
the whole
I'm gonna
time.
yell.
It's like,
You better yell the whole time.
great, Drake.
Walk in,
I'm coming to get you.
Walk in the room, look right at him, like, I'll talk.
You can only use it again if you rip it off of a helicopter. That's the
I'm
only
gonna
way.
land the helicopter on top of the building,
Yeah.
grab the M60 off, and tear through the offices.
Wrap all the bolts around your arm and just.
Get a dart bow and arrow.
So I want to get into the ultimate action scene. And for us, the ultimate action scene in this movie is pretty much the sequence after she dies where he goes bananas.
Last 20
And
minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
kills everyone. It is interesting this movie's 90 minutes long. It's appropriate. I was watching it and I
It's
was
a
like,
well-oiled machine.
yeah, but it's like so many. You don't ever get movies that are less than 2 hours nowadays.
Stallone movies are very quick. They always are.
Yeah, this was good.
And he ended it well. It wasn't that thing with most of these movies that we talk about where like the last 20 minutes you're like, God, please just finish this. Is this really necessary? The end of this movie you're like, yes, this is exactly what I want.
It's like his body. He cuts the fat out.
Well, there's
pretty much what it comes down to. Yeah, all of it.
There's that stupid third act choice that happens in so many of these movies where you're like, he's chasing Dennis Hopper in the subway, of course, or like, it's very hard to avoid because you have to wrap things up. I guess the equivalent in this movie would have been he gets back to base and he's chasing Murdoch around. He has to
like
kill
Murdoch
Nick.
runs or something
Right, exactly.
like that.
Yeah, like Murdoch
That's where
has
stupid producers come in.
taken
They're like,
the general hostage or something. Like, you know what I mean?
That would have been terrible.
Yeah.
it's too many cooks in the kitchen in those kind of movies.
Let me say one thing about this movie. And I remember when Die Hard came out, people said it's a more realistic hero because he gets hurt. He gets, he cuts his feet.
Yeah.
He's by the end of that movie, Bruce Willis is like
Well, it's another
he
movie
gets-
Stallone passed on as well.
Destroyed in those movies.
people kind of get lost in these Rambo movies. He goes through a lot of crap. He gets hurt and banged up. There's that great scene in Rambo 3 where he gets a pipe through his rib cage. He has to flame it out with gunpowder.
Yeah.
This one, he gets captured. He gets tortured.
Yeah.
Electrocuted.
The leeches are on him.
To have him
Yeah.
flex for about 5 minutes
Absolutely.
nonstop.
He
Absolutely.
looks so jacked
Oh,
in that
he's
scene.
insane,
dude.
Oh,
man.
it's crazy.
He's 2% body fat. He forgot Frank's home number.
Look at him here.
Yeah.
This is a completely different person.
Completely different.
And this is still a Rocky. You
Yes.
know, this is
Yeah.
Rocky.
That's Rocky, circa 77.
And same thing happened in First Blood. He falls down in a tree branch. He has to sew up his own arm. He's
Yeah.
going through the maze.
That was badass.
I love that in all the Rambo movies. He's put through the ringer.
Yeah.
So he's not just this guy who walks in unscathed and destroys everybody. He always gets put through the ringer, and I think that builds up for the last action scene.
Then he hides in the sand.
What do we think is the most jacked Stallone ever? Is it
Rocky 4.
Rocky 4.
Rocky
Of
4?
course,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's where he
same
had-
year, and he spent a little more time.
His abs had abs.
That's where he. That's
It
where
was
he
insane.
really he went down to 2% body fat or something. This is what Frank Stallone was telling me, and I do know him. It's true. He's like he was roided out of his body. He was like 2% body fat. He forgot like his home number. We were like, yo, you got to start eating. And after that, he put on a little bit of weight because it wasn't good for his health. It was just too shredded.
That's too
to quote
lean.
Drago, he's like a piece of iron.
Yeah.
He was just a piece of iron.
Unbelievable stuff.
Yeah.
And you had to be that ripped to beat Drago in that movie.
Yeah,
Of course.
he had to be.
He's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, Drago's just the.
He killed Carl Weathers with a punch.
He did.
Okay?
Numerous ones.
He was pretty
If he
huge. in
dies, he dies.
Guys, yeah.
Rambo 3, I think it was just a couple years later. He's pretty jacked in that movie.
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's,
sure.
Yeah, but
88.
it's more bulky. Like
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
this one, he was. I mean, he's only like 5'7".
Well, his
Yeah.
hair is so much bigger in Rambo 3 too, so it's like God.
That's true too. That's when he went to that Hawaiian shirt stage. With the white
Yeah.
jeans and stuff like that. He's like going to Playboy Mansion every day.
I mean, his hair
It's like
gets
late
bigger.
80s. It's like Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be Stallone in the late 80s.
God,
Oh,
the man was a
Jesus.
king.
Yeah,
He's a king amongst
absolutely.
kings.
Just like thinking about his life. Yeah.
All right, so let's get off his abs into the ultimate action.
I want to talk about his abs more.
So ultimate action scene, this is probably where they spend the most money in terms of action and all the choreography and all the stuff. I actually have grabbed a clip we're going to show, which is not the real movie. It's actually a clip from UHF, the Weird Al film,
yeah.
spoofing it.
Underrated.
Yeah, very funny movie. The reason I chose to go with it is because the scene itself,
It's scene for scene the end of the movie.
is kind of absurd. Like it's definitely when we talk about this movie being over the top, this is the scene. So it's kind of long. We'll just play in the background. It's not really important to be able to hear it because it's really all visual.
But we will talk about it.
But we will, yes.
And I'm so happy that it opens with the part that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the fist pump moment.
We're glitching. Anyway.
Glitching. Technical difficulties.
Technical
happens.
We'll talk over it.
Stallone's doing
Only
it.
on your end.
It looks fine in here.
That's not a bad
Okay,
bodysuit.
gotcha.
That's a pretty good bodysuit.
Yeah, no, it is a good body suit.
I thought it was real. This is exactly what we're talking about.
It's the best.
Boom.
See, that's pretty much what happens in
That
the
is
movie.
exactly
though.
what happens. Maybe there's a few more feet in between them, but
And the Vietnamese guy's got like a weird penciled in mustache.
Right.
he doesn't have one line in English in the whole movie.
Zero.
You hate him.
So So this scene is definitely pretty intense, and there's a lot of things as we suggested that are kind of stolen from this scene. As we said, Predator has a lot of stuff that's borrowed from it.
Yep.
There's the scene in this movie where he like comes out of the mud and all the clever
opens his
traps
eye
that he
and
sets.
Which is, when did you set these traps?
Right.
They've been chasing you like nonstop. You're escaping, and he's setting all these. I mean, he's Rambo.
But what trap was there besides the rope and in the mud? I think was
I mean,
like
even
set
just those
traps?
two. Where do you have the time to do that?
To like sink yourself into the mud.
Two words.
Into like a
Slightly.
mud wall.
Green beret.
Yeah, Green Beret.
Green
Green
beret.
beret.
He's like, it's like MacGyver. Give me like a dry erase marker, a
Dental floss.
Stallone compass, Stallone cup in a broken TV.
Like in what world do you get to like you get to like basically hide in a vertical wall of mud and emerge without having to wipe your eyes?
Yeah, nothing. You just opens them.
You like emerge, eyes open. So your eyes have been
Covered
open
his
while you're
eyes
in the
and closed
mud.
them, Yeah.
Like
It's the best.
you like emerge and just like kill, or like you're hovering in the water below the helicopter.
Oh,
you're
he
able to like
shoots out
jump
like
up and
Aquaman.
grab the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's-
love when he grabs the chicken, cuts the chicken's throat, uses the blood to lure him into the
Yep.
cornfield or whatever, and
Then
just sets him on
blazes
fire.
it out with flamethrowers.
So good. Yeah, I love that.
So this is more of like when you said the one-man army. This is like so.
this is
Compare this to Commando. Probably the closest release, closest like movie that feels the same would be Commando. Correct.
True.
Commando is absolutely absurd.
Yes,
there's
it is.
there's nobody that would
right.
even begin
Yeah.
to. But I mean, Schwarzenegger was like sort of more on that train. He was already on the one-liners, like the like really campy.
Yeah, I'll be back.
He's
stuff.
dead tired.
Yeah, I'll have to
Take
Right.
a-
I mean, when a guy goes in the
Surfs
tool
up.
shed and starts just throwing blades through
Right.
dudes' heads.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't buy that if it happened really in this Rambo movie.
No.
Because even though it is ridiculous, it does work on a more realistic level.
Right, that's the magical realism of it all.
And so that's
Commando
what,
didn't have that.
That's why I say when I talk about the architecture of the genre, this movie is so important to it because like it does actually do the most credible version of what this ended up becoming. In Commando, for instance, and as I was like, the Expendables franchise, for instance, doesn't appeal to me because it's too self-aware. It's like it's riffing on its own genre too much, so it's not entertaining to me. It's more
love it
entertaining
either.
if they're not aware of what they're doing.
Okay.
Commando opens with Schwarzenegger carrying a tree
Yeah.
and then getting ice cream on his nose.
Yeah,
and then
jacked.
his daughter gets kidnapped, and the guy's like, we have your daughter, so you have to listen to exactly what I say, right? And he's like, wrong, and just kills the guy.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just how it works. Like,
Yeah, he's not
there's,
gonna listen to anybody. And then he jumps off a plane like DB Cooper.
Yeah.
Snaps some guy's neck. I mean, it's good
Completely
stuff.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
absurd the whole time.
they cut the electricity on his car, and so
Yeah.
he like pushes the thing up over a hill. And, like, I mean, anyway, so
And he goes, he's dead tired.
Oh, that's the best one.
that's the best time of He's dead
But,
tired.
like the scene you just showed here with Weird Al,
Yeah.
where he's like this close and he doesn't hit anybody.
Right.
No more than any movie than Commando. He's literally walking through the garden, and there's guys everywhere around
Zillion
him.
guys.
Yeah, and he's just not getting hit by anybody. He's just shooting this machine gun. At least in this movie, he dismantled the whole camp with a helicopter before. I mean,
Right.
he unloads hell on these people, and then he just goes down there and shoots a couple scrabblers.
Yeah, Rambo's more tactical.
He's a little more tactical. And Commando,
Yeah.
watch that movie. He hits the shore with a bazooka, like a 4-barrel bazooka.
Yeah.
And at one point, he doesn't have anywhere near his body.
Yeah.
And as he's attacking the compound, and then all of a sudden he has it. Like
Yeah.
he pulled it out of his pocket or something.
Yeah.
And the houses are exploding. They look like they're made out of like confetti.
Yeah.
There's nothing but walls and sticks holding it up.
Yeah.
I like Commando as a cheesy 80s movie.
Yeah.
But to
I like
me,
Ray Don Chong.
First Blood Part 2 is another level.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
So 67 deaths. There are 67 deaths in this movie.
Yep.
57 are
Body
killed
count.
by Rambo.
Is that on screen?
Yes.
Okay,
And
so it's
50
probably 200
in command.
off screen.
Yeah.
And Rambo kills 57, and
Yeah.
the vast majority of those are in this final 20
Oh,
minutes.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
He kills so many people. The one thing that I still have a hard time believing about this scene, there's two parts to it. But the first one is when he comes out from underneath the tree. Is that where he is? He's like under the
Yes.
ground, and he grabs the guy's feet, and the guy's too shocked to even scream. He's just like, and he gets pulled in. He doesn't even make any sound to give away the spot. And then the other one is he fakes crashing the helicopter. It's getting
Right.
chased by
Oh,
this
yeah.
massive war chopper. Like this thing
Yeah.
is decked
Kinda
out
patchy.
with everything. Yeah,
Right.
And he fakes crashing it. The guy comes around the bend, and there it is, just sitting there on the ground. And the copter gets closer.
It's sitting
and
on the
closer.
water,
Or
isn't
the
it?
water. Yeah,
It's on
yeah.
the water, yep.
And that copter gets closer and closer and closer, and then it's just. He wakes up and he shoots the bazooka.
Yeah.
I guess the bazooka's
the window.
Yeah.
through the perfect broken part of the
Yeah,
window.
it's only cheesy, like really not well shot in that when they show it again,
Yeah.
it's like through the thing and it's like really looks horrible.
Yeah.
They did a lot better than that
Also-
CGI wise or whatever they do.
I like that as soon as that happens, because the helicopter had been hit, so it was smoking. So like he's going down. He's able to like land the thing on water, be passed out, shoot the bazooka, and then just like fly the smoking helicopter home. There's just zero explanation for like we got hit and it's smoking, but nothing's wrong with it.
Yeah, and
It's
you come
totally-
back to it after he goes to Murdoch, and the copter's just destroyed.
Destroyed,
out front.
yeah.
Just like probably exploded.
Wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
totally good. Totally
Murdoch's base was only like 20 feet away from where everything went down anyway.
Right.
good. Yeah. So they shot this entire movie in Mexico.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it was shot over. Let's see here. Completely in 1984, completely on location in Mexico. Waterfall explosion was Acapulco. I don't exactly know how long it took to shoot the movie, but I have to imagine the production schedule was
June to August '84.
okay. There you go.
Yeah.
June to August in '84.
It's a
So
90-day shoot probably, maybe more.
yeah, nowadays if you were going to shoot a movie as epic as this with
Yeah.
like as many explosions, this would take 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
probably.
I don't know because it'd probably be
Mad
all
Max?
CG, so they'd probably be like, green screen, and
Right.
let's shoot it in a month.
Unless Stanley Kubrick was alive.
Right.
And it'd be like 14 years.
Right.
But it'd be a masterpiece, that's for sure.
Stanley Kubrick Rambo movie? Oh my sign
Well,
me
I
up.
mean, you know,
watch
you
that in
had
a
Full Metal.
heartbeat.
Do we think that like a remake of this movie would like nowadays would feel super different? Like if you were to like take a really quality director and plug in some really quality actors and try to make a credible plot, could you get a Rambo movie to feel like Rambo and be good in today's?
I don't know. For me, a large part of it is the fact that he's a Vietnam vet. That
Right.
underplays throughout the whole series.
Correct.
You would have to like. There hasn't been a war quite like the Vietnam War. I mean, yeah, Afghanistan. I guess you could kind of make some parallels there.
Yeah.
But I just think it'd be tough. And for me, I don't. When I like someone's iconic, I know they're going to reboot Indiana Jones.
Right.
Right.
But for me, Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, Mad Max came out. For me, Mel Gibson's Mad Max.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I thought Tom Hardy did a great job, and I
Yeah.
think the movie's phenomenal.
Yeah.
To me, Mel Gibson's Mad Max.
Yeah.
So, do I think they could do it successfully? Yes. But will I fully buy into it? You can't redo Rocky.
I was just gonna say you can't.
Rocky's
redo
on
these
a
movies.
little bit on another level. I'll give you that.
And I think that's a testament to Stallone as this
Yeah.
guy is. He is. You can't recast him.
Right.
Like we have this section. We'll get to it where we talk
Yeah.
about recasting. You can't recast Stallone. You can't make
No.
Rocky again, like you said.
No,
you
you
can't make Rambo again without him. Mad Max, I think. Like you said, they got away with it. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they could, but I truly don't believe that you could remake this movie without Stallone.
No.
Which is fine because he's still jacked.
Yes.
He's just
You can still do it.
Jacked.
I mean, it's tough when an actor is just so attached to that character. I mean, it's a name. Rambo's a name. It's
Yeah.
not So that's why, like, when I know they're gonna do Indiana Jones, because it was created from a serial already. Like George Lucas was remaking serials from like 1950s and 40s, so I could kind of understand why they would recast him because they would do in old days. But
Sure.
Rambo is just an original thing that came up, and
Yeah.
Stallone made it his own. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you got to remember he
Yeah.
also wrote and directed this character.
Yeah.
Like it is him embodied.
Like they could do another Cobra.
Yeah,
They could
of
probably do
course.
another Tango and Cash.
yeah.
You do
And
another over the top.
Yeah, another over the top, another
Cliffhanger.
lockup. Yeah, stuff like that.
But that's like, I know I wanted to reference this just because the trailer came out yesterday. My all-time favorite movie is Point Break.
Yeah.
I think Point Break's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, let's take a minute to talk about this trailer.
Because it's well, I just wanted to say it's upsetting to me when you remake a movie that I consider to be a complete classic with superstars at the time that it came out.
Massive.
Like Swayze was in the peak of his powers.
Yeah.
People's Sexiest Man Alive, 1990.
Ben has
movie
that
came out in
magazine
91.
still at home.
I don't understand how you can remake the movie without superstars. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's the same thing with Rambo. How do you remake Rambo without a huge superstar as Rambo?
Yeah, you need a massive bad guy. You need a huge superstar to play Rambo.
Yeah.
And with the Point Break trailer, I think you were saying earlier that they Gerard Butler was going to originally.
Yeah, he was. He dropped out.
And I think that would have helped. For
Absolutely.
Sure. Like, that is
that's to get you opening weekend money.
Yeah, exactly. Opening weekend money, and just as a person that loves action movies, you need that. You need that one guy in there.
You need the face.
Here's my
Trust me,
problem.
I've said it
One of the problems
numerous amounts of times, and nobody wants to listen.
Finstock actually worked on the film,
Yes,
so you
I did.
can only say so much.
I would have paid Keanu $1 zillion.
To come back?
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that
or
would
just
be
even,
great.
or you just even say something about the YouTube trailer yesterday. Keanu Reeves presents the new Point Break trailer.
Right.
This is what, for me, remakes, when it comes to certain movies, to me, the cast is what makes that movie so great.
Yeah.
Gary Busey is a supporting character. Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves. It's not listen, the plot to Point Break is cool now.
the same plot
That
as-
is not what keeps me going back to that
Didn't
movie.
take it too serious.
It's the performances. And that's Karate Kid came out.
Yeah.
Remake with Jaden Smith.
Yeah.
It wasn't a horrible movie.
No, it wasn't.
It was an okay remake.
Yeah.
But you're not going to quote it like you're going to quote that
Right.
first movie because
Right.
the guy that played Johnny was just the best. Is that
Yes.
what his
Yeah,
name
right.
was?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Daniel LaRusso, Pat Morita was nominated for Oscar for that movie.
That's correct.
Best
Which is
supporting
just
actor.
amazing.
Yeah.
He's
And-
so good in that.
And Jaden Smith his name wasn't Daniel LaRusso.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the plot to Karate Kid is not like a groundbreaking plot.
Right,
It's the actors and performances that bring me back to those movies.
Yeah.
That's what brings me back to Point Break is those performances. So when I see a remake, I'm like, all right, I wasn't, the idea isn't that great that you need to make a remake. It's
They did. It was
it's
called The Fast and the
actors.
Furious.
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yep,
So-
exactly.
Totally right.
It's tough, man. It's just tough.
It is. We'll see. I mean, like I said, it's the action's fantastic.
Well, I will see it, and I'll see it, and we'll do it on the
We
show.
will definitely do
I
that on
hope
the show.
everybody does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might have to just bring you guys back for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, seriously, it'd be good. All right, so I kind of want to get into hero-villain ranks. We were going to get into the interactive part of the show. So now, guys, fans, if you guys are watching live, we really like to have you guys participate in this with us. So I'm going to rattle off our Twitters really quickly in case you guys want to tweet at us, but you can also just comment on YouTube. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media if you want to tweet at me.
At Bob Finstock.
At Schmoes JTE.
At Andrew Ghai, Ghai, and I do love your guys' comments, so send them.
Absolutely.
So please interact with us as we go through this last little section of the show. We're going to start with where we rank the hero and villain all time. Now, and I'm going to start with this, and I think that, in my opinion, the villains in this movie are irrelevant. They're not even really in a conversation.
Yeah.
Like
Very weak.
They're not even really, as you said earlier, they're hard to even really characterize as villains. Like they're just sort of like backdrop.
They're cannon fodder.
But Rambo, but Rambo,
Rambo.
as a hero, as an action movie hero, I would have to say he's top 5. I mean,
Yes,
all-timers.
absolutely.
He's up there with like the McClanes of the world and the Riggs of the world.
I'm with you.
Jason Bournes of the world. Like he's really high up there for me.
Would Schwarzenegger make that list as because Terminator's not really a hero?
Yeah, I was.
No,
It's
he's
funny
not.
you were saying that. I was thinking about. I was like, who would Schwarzenegger be? Who would
Characters?
this guy be?
Oh, Dutch goes pretty high for me. I love
Dutch
Dutch.
from Predator?
Yeah,
Okay.
Dutch from Predator is definitely really high for
That's
me.
a good one.
I would say
John Kimball. Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah, what's his name?
I love that movie. As a
Great
kid.
movie.
thought it was
I still
awesome.
like it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's funny when you think about Arnold Stallone. Like Arnold never really had the franchise. Yeah, he had Terminator 1 and 2 and 3. And 3 was horrible. 1 and 2. What are franchises he had besides that? I guess Conan, but I mean,
He wasn't a franchise guy. We talked
he
about
wasn't a
that.
franchise guy.
He's
Yeah.
standalone.
He's more standalone, which is very interesting to me.
His most, to me, the most memorable Schwarzenegger character is Dutch. It's the, I mean, as a
Interesting.
character, it's the
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
that I've watched the movie the most times, and every time I watch it, I have so many fist pump moments.
Yeah.
The movie's just so sweet.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
And then I would say, otherwise, if you wanted to go with Schwarzenegger from one of the Terminators, you could go with T2
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger as a hero.
Okay.
Because he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's really good.
So for me, I'd probably put Rambo. I'd have to think exactly where, but he's inside the top 5. He's probably 5th, but he might be as high as like 4th or 3rd.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna agree completely.
Yeah.
I would definitely put him in the top 5, and the villains are they don't exist to me.
Yeah.
I don't care about them.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
villains are weak. He's top 5. Like I said, he's the one-man army. He started the whole thing, in my opinion. So
Now you
he's
guys
gotta
have
be
a
up
lot
Maybe
of.
he's top 3.
Do you guys, as I'm saying, he might be for me.
I think he might be number. I think he's number 1 for me.
Yeah,
He's the
like
best.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of somebody better.
Yeah.
I can't.
I
Well, I
don't
mean,
either.
McClane's great.
Like-
but he only saves America. This guy saves the world.
That's right.
That's a big deal.
It's a good point.
Big difference.
Characters that you like totally believe in, and they're just like the best in the action franchise. I mean, it's hard. For me, he's good, but he's a little sillier as a character than I'm sure there's a couple characters I can think of if I really went through it. That'd be like, not only do I like you as a character as much, but I take you a little more seriously as a character.
Right.
Because I do get into this genre, and I do feel like it's super, super important to keep coming back to that one character over and over and over again.
Look, you run into Rambo in the Vietnamese jungle, and you will take him very seriously. Bro.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're putting a team together, like say you're like going on a mission, and you could pull like any fictional like action hero,
Yeah.
who's not going to want Rambo on there?
Oh, he's there.
I mean, he's got to be there.
I mean, you definitely Jason Bourne has to be pretty high. He's a total badass.
See,
I mean, I think
a
Jason
total
Bourne
different style of
Yeah,
badass.
it's totally,
though.
yeah.
It's a different era.
He falls behind Rambo for sure.
Yeah.
Ethan Hunt is somebody who I'd put right up there with him. He's a guy that is.
Wait, is that Tom Cruise? Is
Yes.
that why you?
Tom
something-
Cruise.
It's so
wonder
because
why.
those are PG-13 action heroes.
Yeah.
That you just mentioned.
Stallone-
I go for the
yeah.
R-rated.
Stallone's
I
like
want
a-
guys who are going to take dudes out.
Steroid raging, sexually oppressed, like action hero.
Liam Neeson in the Taken franchise is real sweet. He's definitely good. Anyway, we were going to stay on this
Yeah.
too long. Have we all?
He's top 5, if not number 1.
He's number 1.
He's number one for you.
I love it. We found a number one.
Top
Number
three for
1,
you.
John McClane.
I'm
Number
gonna go
2.
top 3. Yeah.
He's top 5
I'm
for you.
going to say top 3 for me. I can't. Yeah, it's got to be top 3. He might be number 1.
I'm going to just throw it out there and say
So
number
hard.
4 for me.
Number 4.
Okay.
Yeah, he's that's I think 4
Okay.
is a solid number. I feel good about that.
That's fair.
The fact that we're doing a movie with one of the top 5 greatest action heroes of all time is great.
Yeah.
Yes,
So happy to
correct.
finally get there.
He might be the number 1.
He might be.
Yep.
I mean, I may apologize next week on the show to you guys and just realize that actually
Because Rocky's
there's
action
no one
hero
I can
too.
think of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rocky the Fighter.
Well,
Yeah, I would put him as an action star,
Rocky's a
but
He beats Russia.
He did. He did.
All right, guys. So this is one of our favorites. We are going to do a recast. There's not a lot of notable characters to recast, so we chose Sylvester Stallone, Charles Napier, and Richard Crenna. Rambo, Marshall Murdoch, and Colonel Samuel Troutman.
Yep.
And I guess we're going to sound off and start with
Tom? JT?
me? Okay, great.
JT.
For Troutman, I am going with Powers Booth.
Oh, that's good.
Powers Booth.
I think his voice alone, I could just see him ripping out that dialogue
yeah.
that Troutman spits out.
Anything he says is awesome.
And he just has that presence. Like every time you see him in a movie, he's usually some sort of military guy. He was in First Class where he played like
Right.
Navy General MacGruber. He was basically playing
Yeah.
Troutman.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, this guy's fantastic. And he's a really good actor. He was also in Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee, where he kind of played the same kind of character.
The game has changed, Mac, but the players are the same.
Yeah. So I have to go with Powers Booth. For Murdoch, I went Paul Giamatti.
That's really good.
Because
Yeah.
I just I want somebody that's kind of Weasley, sweat. I can just see Giamatti like sweating through his like
Yeah.
button-up shirt and like, oh, Rambo. I can just
He's
see
coming
him,
for it.
Yeah.
Drinking Merlot.
Like when, mainly because when Rambo comes back to the base and he enters the room and he does this look right at Murdoch, and Murdoch has this look of just pure fear.
Oh,
I
shit-
can see
shit
Paul
his pants
Giamatti
immediately.
like,
Yeah.
Rambo, I'm so glad you made it. And the hardest one for me was Stallone because, like we said, I can't see anyone being replaced.
Yeah.
If you had to do it, I would get Andy Serkis to do motion capture. And then we get Weta to create Stallone.
Yeah.
Young Stallone in
is
his prime.
like they did in the Terminator.
Like the Terminator. Exactly. Genesis. You see Arnold in his
Yeah.
prime, you gotta use
Except they
Andy
went with like just jacked out of his mind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who
because that's
doesn't
what
want to
he
see
was
the
in
two of
first
them fight?
Yeah,
Oh
it's
no,
gonna
I'm
be
sorry.
amazing.
I'm thinking in T4 when he shows up, and it's like
As a young
bodybuilder
person.
era
Oh, yeah.
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
Yeah.
too jacked. He's like Olympian era, like 76
Yeah.
era
It's probably like a
Schwarzenegger.
hologram. It's probably a hologram or something.
I
Yeah.
just,
I'm
I
not
just,
sure.
I trust Andy Serkis to do his homework. He'll watch all the Rambo movies. He'll get all the mannerisms down. 'Cause
Oh yeah,
it's a very
he's the
physical
best.
performance.
He's the best
Absolutely.
physical actor
And then
out there.
you know you get Weta to put in Stallone in there digitally.
Yeah,
Stallone to do
I'm on
the
to a good
elves.
answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel the exact same way about Stallone. So I feel like my choice is kind of a cop out, but it's The Rock. He's the
Yeah.
biggest action hero right now. He's massive. He's jacked. Everyone loves him. He's at the peak of his
I'm
career.
right there
as
with
well.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could do that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
It's funny because you were talking about Predator earlier. I could see The Rock playing Dutch more than I could see him playing Rambo.
Really?
Because Arnold always
great
has that
Predator.
presence
Yeah.
of just huge muscles. And I
That's
think
true.
Stallone's ripped, but I don't see him as a huge bodybuilder type.
Yeah.
So I think Rock would actually be great for
The
Predator.
Rock is very physically intimidating. I
Yeah.
did the San Andreas premiere last night,
Oh,
and
nice.
he was
He's
right
a
there.
big
dude,
boy.
He's
real
huge.
Large
real
man.
legit,
Yeah.
big shoulders, very and so charismatic, so like
Yeah.
just the
He's got
white
that smile,
teeth.
big
Yeah,
smile.
he's larger than life. The whole Schwarzenegger is larger than life thing.
Yeah.
I feel like it totally applies to The Rock.
Interesting.
For Murdoch, I went with William Hurt because he's a weasel too. You know, I hate
Yeah.
that guy, and you can totally see him doing this role. And I love to see him get beaten. William
Right.
Hurt. I like to see him lose. And I'm proud of this one. For Richard Crenna, I know, I'm just gonna pat myself on the back. For Colonel, I did Richard Jenkins.
Oh,
Glasses
wait.
or no glasses?
weakness.
I feel like he always has glasses.
You can do no glasses.
Has he ever without glasses? Yeah,
he
probably has.
plays weakness well.
He plays weakness very well, but he's also a very, very good actor. So
Yeah,
he
he's
could be a
great.
great hype man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. I like that.
I can see
like
that.
that.
Totally
too.
Got a
believable.
lot.
I like that a lot.
What about you, sir?
For Murdoch, I'm gonna go Sean Penn.
Okay,
But
Murdoch,
only,
Sean Penn.
Yeah, but only in his I Am Sam accent. No.
Is that an accent? Is that what that is?
I was gonna say like maybe in Carlito's way.
Yeah, maybe. I'm gonna go with Murdoch. Robert Loggia.
Robert Loggia.
Loggia.
Yeah, Robert
Yes.
Loggia.
Please.
He's,
Yeah.
he's in Scarface. He's in Independence Day. He's in Big with Tom Hanks.
What role does he play in Scarface?
The
first guy that Al Pacino works for.
Yeah, the first guy Al Pacino
that
works
old
for.
guy?
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's still alive.
He's still alive.
Wow.
Also,
Still can act, too.
was in Over the Top with
He
Stallone.
was in Over the Top.
He played a grandfather.
Yeah, he's actually really good.
He's a great actor.
You don't think he's too
Yeah.
old?
Nah.
That's from Murdoch, though.
Yeah.
because Murdoch, I think he can be ageless because
Yeah,
he's
he
a
could be.
weasel.
You got to slam him on the table without him dying. You got to remember that.
Yeah, but you also have to like I think that for Richard Crenna, you have to be like, well, he's got to be young enough that you could believe he would have been in the war like a few years
Sure.
earlier.
Yeah,
yeah.
But like for Murdoch, you
That's
don't
true.
care.
He could, okay.
I just like
that.
saying the name Robert Loggia as well.
Yeah, just saying it.
Loggia.
Yeah.
Robert Lotion.
We're going to go with Sean Penn as Richard Crenna again, but with David Kleinfeld hair from Carlito's. No. I would go Val Kilmer. Currently too.
Fat Val.
Fat Val
I
Kilmer.
love Val Kilmer now.
He's the best.
Huge fan.
Yeah,
Like obviously
he's the best.
you can tell from how much we've talked about MacGruber, that's one of my favorite movies of all time anyway, but he is incredible in that movie. He makes that movie. Him and Will
does.
Forte are just phenomenal.
Great, and he was great in Tombstone.
Yeah.
And everything else he does.
Kilmer's
And the
class.
Saint.
Yeah, and Rambo, Sean Penn currently, like right now how he looks.
Doesn't even need to work
Yeah,
out.
he kills everybody now anyway. Or Frank Stallone, either one. He can't go too far away from the badass.
Yeah. This is real. You're just sticking with Sean Penn on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I dig it. Finally we got a real Sean Penn. We had to get him in the movie somehow.
Yeah, he had to get in the movie.
I totally agree with The Rock. It is a little hard, like, but you know what? This is my thing. Okay, your favorite athlete signs the new team. You're like, no, he's been this team his whole career. I don't see him wearing that jersey. He goes over there and he wins. He's 100% on the new team. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way it works.
Okay.
If you get the right team behind this movie, you put The Rock, you rewrite it a little bit, good dialogue, good action. If he's franchise Viagra, man. Like, you put The Rock into it, I really do think The Rock could do it. It'd be weird to see him with hair, but maybe he wouldn't give him hair.
Yeah.
Maybe he just wouldn't give him
That
hair.
bandana would still be without hair though.
A Bruce Lee wig. Give him a Bruce Lee wig.
And you know, I cast The Rock myself. I love The Rock, but I have a hard time believing him when he's serious. After watching Hercules,
Yeah, after
I was
watching
pretty
Tooth
let
Fairy.
down.
Hercules.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I can find him. Like, if he was in Predator, like you said,
Yeah.
I just don't know if I can believe him being that serious.
Yeah, he
the
is
whole
so
movie.
charismatic and funny.
Yeah.
I could see The Rock pulling off those Arnold lines better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Than,
That's
like,
true, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you that. All right, and then so for Murdoch, Charles Napier, I went with Michael Douglas.
That's a good one.
I think he's Weasley enough.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
old,
yeah.
too,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Old
He's out there.
Weasley
Yep.
at this point. I think he could do it really well.
I can believe that he was in the military.
Yeah.
And then for Troutman, this is maybe a reach, but I think just only the tone of his voice is the only reason. It would be Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman.
Because I think Pullman's kind of off the radar now.
Yeah.
I could really see him if you dress him up the right way.
Yeah.
He does give speeches well.
Yeah.
You know, he was the president in
Yeah,
Independence Day.
That
Like,
speech is amazing.
Nuke him.
I think he could do it. I do think he could do it.
Yeah, I can see that. For sure.
Because the really hard thing for me with those two characters was that for Rambo, you need a huge action star. So The Rock, I believe he could do it. But for those other two, it's like, as we said, they're only memorable for this franchise.
Yeah.
So you're not looking at him and like, like it's really hard for me to imagine somebody like Giamatti. Like I can see him playing the role, but I'm almost like he's too good of an actor. He's too experienced. Say like Tom Wilkinson's a guy that I could put in either one of those roles.
Yeah.
Wilkinson's too good though.
Yeah.
You need somebody like Pullman who's like off the radar. Douglas is kind of past his prime.
Yeah.
These are guys that I could see filling those roles if you were to do a remake now. You'd really associate them with those roles now because they're not in the limelight doing other stuff.
You
I'm
get
paying
someone that
attention
you
to
take
now.
too seriously, and it takes away from the movie.
You know, I
think.
find really interesting how when you think about Rambo, you're thinking like, who can I replace him for action star?
Yeah.
When Stallone made Rambo Part 2, he wasn't really the action star yet. He
True.
did Rocky movies where he played a boxer.
Right.
But all his roles after Rocky were a lot of dramas and
Yeah.
like
Fists.
like
and
Fist and
Lords
Nighthawks,
of Flatbush.
Lords of Flatbush. Some of these movies,
Paradise Alley.
These are not like he wasn't. Rambo made him that action star.
It did. Because
I
Rambo
don't-
1 was not that kind of... It wasn't action hero at that
Yeah,
point.
and there was a lot of people
Just
saw
one
it
man's
as kind
journey.
of a drama.
Yeah, it was one man's journey.
So, like, if I was making Rambo today, I would try to get somebody who's not really quite an action star yet. Maybe, like, on the verge. Like, I think you said earlier, like Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
I could kind of see him going in there because he has the physical presence.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's a good actor because,
Yeah.
it's just interesting how that works out.
If Hardy was to, I mean, if that was what really happened, I mean, it would definitely be, that'd be great.
Well, they had to reboot the franchise. You know, in the first one, like I said, Stallone wasn't really an action hero. So,
Right.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's the way you ease him into it rather than just going full blast with like a Rambo 2 where he's blowing up the world.
Right, and you mentioned this before the show. We were talking about who's better, is it Stallone or is it Schwarzenegger? And the one thing that Stallone has is that he can play the everyman. He can
That's
play
true.
that everyday guy, and Arnold can't.
No, he cannot.
You know, you saw Kindergarten Cop. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
He's not
But
that.
he's still like a bodybuilder turned...
a bodybuilder cop. Yeah,
and
exactly.
just his accent and everything. It just,
Right.
he's a larger than life person.
Yes, Stallone
So he
couldn't do
comes off
Cop.
that.
I mean, Schwarzenegger couldn't do Copland.
No.
No, of course not. And Stallone, you know, he's done some movies where he's trying to, you know, goes into the drama, Lockup.
Yeah.
Lockup,
Which was great.
Which is
I
a great
love that
movie.
movie.
But that with Arnold, it'd be like,
Yeah. Right.
who's he killing and when?
Yeah, Arnold would play like the bully.
sounds ridiculous, he
Yeah,
doesn't sound as ridiculous as Arnold.
Right.
And he's much more believable.
I will say this: if you looking back on their careers, you know, as parallel action stars, you would say, in the end, Schwarzenegger won. Like Schwarzenegger, in the end, had like a longer career of more hits, and Stallone had two big franchises and a lot of stuff that nobody really watched. Right? That's the story of the careers.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the reason that is for exactly what you're talking about. Stallone could play the everyman, but he kept wanting to be an artist. He kept wanting to do the comedy. He kept wanting to do a weird Western with Dolly Parton or something, right?
Yeah, Rhinestone, yeah.
Yeah,
He did his all his own singing.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
You know, he wanted to he'd have this dalliance as like an artist because clearly he wrote Rocky. I mean, that was what he was. Schwarzenegger knew exactly what he was the whole time.
Yeah.
And he never strayed away from it.
Yep.
And that's ultimately why Schwarzenegger was still making hit movies and movies that were making money into the early 2000s. I mean, it's debatable if like Collateral
Late
Damage was a
90s,
hit, but
Well, it's interesting that
Total
because
Recall's fantastic.
Oh,
So is
one of
Running
my
Man.
favorites.
Arnold knew his range.
Of True
I
Lies.
think he knew he
Yeah.
couldn't be doing that. I think Stallone showed because he was nominated for an Oscar right out of the gate. And he did stuff like Fist. I think he showed he could actually kind of be successful in that. So I could see why he'd want to try to do more roles like that. Whereas I
Absolutely.
think Arnold never came close
no.
to
knew it.
being
He knew he
nominated for
couldn't do that.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, Arnold
So
wanted
he
money
just-
and chicks. Stallone wanted to be an artist.
Yeah.
And money.
So it's just
Yeah, and money.
And money and chicks.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so this is a quick rapid fire. This is something we do called Cage versus Cruz. I'm going to ask each one of you the role of John Rambo in this movie. Had it been played, you get to choose Cage or you get to choose Cruz, and you get to give me one sentence describing what would happen.
I'm going in right now. Tom Cruise because of the height.
Sir,
They're the same height, okay?
Okay.
Wow, that's a good point. I'm gonna say Nicolas Cage because he actually rocked that hairdo in Con Air. He could rock the long hair and be an action hero, so that proves he could do Rambo.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Nick Cage too, just a bit because of pure ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Like he looked good, like doing like the yelling, like and like 360 helicopter
Great
stuff.
yell.
Yeah,
Such a guttural yell.
yeah.
I'm definitely going to go Cage. This is one that in his prime, Cage would have knocked out of the park. The thing that's really interesting about Nick Cage that some people don't realize is that there was a portion of his career where he was kind of playing like action stars. Like,
Oh yeah,
Yeah, like The
Con Air.
Rock and
like
Con Air.
not just The Rock where he was like Stanley. Where, I'm talking like movies where he got
action hero.
jacked.
Yeah.
Kiss of the Vampire, Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah.
He's jacked. He's pretty jacked in Con Air.
He is.
Yeah.
Kiss of Death.
Kiss of Death. he was
Kiss
good
of
at.
Death. That's what I'm
The
thinking.
one, the one with the guy from NYPD Blue.
Yeah, Michael Rappaport's in it too. I think.
Yeah, and he's just basically this big, muscular kind of
Yeah.
thug. But Con Air is his most 80s action movie.
Totally made in the 90s.
I mean, there's slow motion, hair waving in the
Oh,
air.
it's
Yeah,
excellent.
it's got
I mean,
it. He looks like Rambo.
Yeah. He's
Can't
totally
wait
capable.
till we do that movie.
Totally capable.
It's the closest to Rambo I've seen.
All right, guys.
Favorite line? I want to talk about my favorite line, man.
Yeah.
let's do that.
Skipping things. Favorite lines.
Listen, Rambo does that to people.
All right, who wants to go? Who wants to do it?
I can go.
Yeah, all right, Tom, let's hear it.
It's from Troutman, and then Rambo delivers just the knockout blow, and it's the last line of the movie. He goes, "How will you live, John?" He goes, "Day by day." Day by day. And he just walks off.
Like, where did he go? Where did he go? He has to turn around in like 10 minutes.
He's going to get a cheeseburger. He's hungry. He didn't eat the whole movie.
That's what he does.
JT?
Day by day.
It's also from the very end of the movie. I love when, Troutman's kind of talking to him as they're walking away, and he goes, what do you want? And Stallone gives this great anger-fueled speech where he's like, I want what they want for my country to love me as much as I loved it.
Yeah.
And he says it with such aggressive anger. Yeah. I'm just like,
that's where he probably was crying.
Yeah, that's probably was. Yeah,
exactly.
Right. And that says in that one of the documentaries on the movie, that's how a lot of soldiers felt come back from Vietnam.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think it resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, they got a lot of flack for that.
Right. Politics. Stallone writing it. Mine is a little long, but it's early on. It's Rambo John J., born 7/6/47, Bowie, Arizona, of Indian-German descent. Joined Army 8/6/64. Yeah, hell of a combination. Accepted. Special Forces specialization. Light weapons. Cross-trained as medic, helicopter, and language qualified. 59 confirmed kills. 2 Silver Stars, 4 Bronze, 4 Purple Hearts, Distinguished Service Cross, and the Congressional Medal of Honor. And this is literally exactly what we talk about in these movies. This guy can...
the qualifier.
Yeah, this is the qualifier. This guy can do anything.
Yeah, that's like Barry Bond stats.
Yeah, exactly.
59 confirmed, probably 300 unconfirmed.
Yeah.
I like I like that line a lot. My line is very similar. It's the other qualifier that comes right after. It's from Troutman, and he says, "Let me just say that Rambo is the best combat vet that I've ever seen. A pure fighting machine with only a desire to win a war that someone else lost. And if winning means he has to die, he'll die. He'll die. No fear, no regrets." That's like both. You could just those two paired together, or just say everything you need to know.
I want that
Rambo.
guy to do anything for me.
There's a couple of other honorable mentions, or like Rambo, expendable.
Yeah.
And then obviously when he's like, Murdoch.
Yeah.
It's like on his lips. He's like,
so good.
I'm coming to get you.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. And at the very end, he's like, find them. Yeah. I'll find you.
Did anyone else want to see him die?
Yeah, definitely.
I want him to get stabbed. So you're already in a military base shooting it up. Like, you've already broken the law. Just kill the guy.
Well, he already got in trouble and had to go into a rock smashing camp for going crazy in the first. He was
sculpting.
If he had killed Murdoch at the end of this one, who knows where he'd start in the third one. Yeah. But I also like the line where she says, "You look like hell, Rambo." And he goes, "Tough day."
That's good stuff.
There's a few actors who have the eyes of just pure intensity. Stallone has shown it a few times in his career, once and over the top for the first arm wrestling match.
Yeah.
And I said it earlier, after he just blows away everything in that place.
Sure.
And he walks in the room, and I love the framing of the scene because Troutman's to the right, and Rambo comes in, he's looking straight on, and he gives the head turn.
Yeah.
And it's just his eyes right there, and as he's walking towards him,
that's Brian Thompson intensity.
It's Brian Thompson intensity. Yeah, from Cobra.
From Cobra.
I wish the Cobra would be a good one to do on here.
Oh yeah.
JT carries a picture of Brian Thompson in his wallet
in case I'm at the gym and I need I need an extra.
Wait, what should I look like?
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's the intensity. I just found it.
Got to bring that pure intensity.
All right, fellas. So this is it. This is the final segment, and this is going to be a really interesting one because I think we all have varied opinions on this. There are 3 categories that all action movies fit into. The 3 categories are totally ridiculous. That is fall off a cliff of absurdity. A great reference point for this would be Face Off, maybe Con Air, movies that have a hard time really ever stepping into the literal world of quality, but they're very entertaining. You have totally legitimate, which are great movies like The Fugitive, Die Hard, movies that are real classics. There's
very
nothing,
believable.
almost nothing you can really criticize about them in the end. And then the perfect zenith category, the middle category, which is that's the cream of the crop, which is it's ridiculously legitimate. And for us, it would be Point Break, Speed, The Rock are the 3 movies that come to mind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, where do we think this movie falls? And this is a big one, guys. If you're watching, please tweet at us, comment on YouTube. We want to know what you think, because this is a controversial one. I have a feeling we're going to have some different opinions.
Yeah.
I am going to start.
Yeah,
please.
Let's do this.
It is totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
Beyond. If there was a 4th category for totally ridiculous, I would put it in that category.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's go over here.
That's fair.
I'm gonna say totally legitimate.
I knew it. That's why.
Here's the thing. A movie is a product of its time. You gotta look. I know we're decades out, but when this movie came out, I don't think people were thinking totally ridiculous.
No.
I think it was the first of its kind. It was a huge blockbuster, one-man army. So for that time period, and when I watched the movie, I gotta think about when it was made.
Yeah.
To me, it's totally legitimate, and I don't think there's a movie quite like it that's done it better. To be honest with you.
So you think it's totally legitimate in '85 and in 2015?
I think if you can name a movie that does what it did better, then I'll say maybe not, but I can't think of one.
Okay.
I agree with him. I mean, I went with ridiculously legitimate.
The middle category.
Yeah.
It's a little more realistic, I think.
I think, you go over to Vietnam and there's still tensions were running high still, from the people who came back there and everything like that. They didn't want him to go there and just stab everybody. They wanted him to go there and just blow up the entire country, basically.
Right.
And that's pretty much exactly what he did.
He won the war first.
Right. Yeah. And I think, if the people come home and watch that thing, they're like, you know what? All right, now this maybe settled me out a little bit. Now I'm fine.
Sure.
Now I won't go into supermarkets and hear, the bells ring and dive to the floor and, run and say, hey, whatever they called them back in those days.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I like about it.
I'm going to go to the exact same category. Ridiculously legitimate.
You think it's the middle category?
It's interesting because when I started off today, I did not. I thought it was totally ridiculous. But thanks to these guys and our discussion, it bumped it up for me. I think that there's definitely moments in where I cannot get on board. I have to suspend my disbelief too much. Yeah. But when you take everything into account, you give the movie the respect that it deserves, not just because it's 30 years old, like you forget, you overlook it. But like you said, when it came out in '85, I bet this movie was mind-blowing. I bet it was like the greatest.
Biggest R-rated movie?
Yeah, I mean, this is the worst rated Rambo movie ever, but it's also the most parodied, well-known, and respected by the community, in my opinion.
I mean,
the community.
The community, yeah.
I mean, look, when you
watch these movies.
I think when the Oscar people were like tallying their votes, they're like, do we give Rambo an Oscar nomination?
Yeah, right.
And they're probably like, I can't see why not.
Yeah, why?
Right,
I mean, it did this, yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
I mean, it is interesting, I will say, that we reviewed Mad Max last week, and my feeling on Mad Max was, my bold statement was that the franchise association, the plot, the dialogue, and most of the delivery of the lines was totally irrelevant to enjoying the movie, and I thought the movie was totally fantastic because of the action and how great it was. Maybe in 1985, had I seen this movie, I would have felt the exact same way. It's quite possible.
Yeah,
hard for me to put myself, because it's so laughable at so many parts, but I can see where you're coming from. I still say totally ridiculous.
I think, the numbers don't lie. I mean, look at their top 10 on that 85 box office. I mean, it's number 2, and there's some really good movies under
Color
that.
Purple.
Yeah, and Jewel of the Nile, and Witness, and Goonies, and Spies Like Us.
And Rocky IV.
And
Even
Rocky
though it's the
IV.
same movie,
Yeah.
that is the Rocky movie.
The only one that
anyone
deserves
can
to
debate
beat it
that.
is Back to the Future, because that's just...
I think we
It's
can
classic.
all agree that we'd
Yeah.
like to be 1985 Sylvester Stallone if we could.
And I also think
correct.
part of what's First Blood, you heard about so much what he could do. You heard about him as a Green Beret.
Yep.
It's like seeing like a retired player. He's not in the game anymore.
Right.
Rambo 2 put him back in the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
It said, we're going to show you, we told you everything you
It's
could
his
do.
natural habitat.
Yeah.
Put
We're
John
gonna-
Rambo back
Yeah.
on the map. Hell.
Yeah. It's like we're gonna let you see everything that he could do, and that's why I think it was such a huge hit.
He should have wore
And
a shirt
nothing-
that said, I'm back, bitches.
Yeah.
To Vietnam.
Yeah, it's an amazing movie.
Amazing. All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for Action Movie Anatomy today. A heck of an episode.
Yeah.
A hell of an episode.
Hell of an episode, son.
A hell of an episode, Sully. Thank you guys so much for coming and joining us today. That was really a lot of fun. You guys had a tremendous amount of Rambo insight.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we had you guys on for
Diehard
this.
fans.
Thanks for having us.
So let's just run around real quick. Where can the people find you guys if they want to tweet at you?
At Schmoes JTE, you can catch us, me and Tom, are on the Schmoes No Show every Thursday from 6 to 8 Pacific time. We also do Box Office Breakdown on this very good network,
That's
Popcorn
what we
Talk
do.
Network. We cover the movies every weekend.
Yeah, we talk about Stallone a lot.
Yeah, we always bring Stallone up.
All right.
And I have my own podcast called JTE Movie Thinks, where I interview people about movies.
Nice.
Absolutely. You
Absolutely.
can find
Check those things out. Those
You
are
can
great
find me
shows.
at Bob Finstock.
Just like always, at Andrew Ghai. Thanks again for watching.
Ben Bateman Media, Twitter, Instagram, and occasionally, like last night, when The Rock flew in on a helicopter, or he was on actually a fire truck, Periscope, but very occasionally. So I'll see you guys then. Take care.
Take care, guys.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.